Greetings, I'm Jeff Bontrager, and many of you know me in the role as Superintendent of Northwest Community Schools. But I'm also a member of our local Salvation Army Advisory Board. My role in this video will be that of MC. I'm here with Major Tamayo, who leads the Salvation Army right here in Jackson County, and I want to welcome you to our first ever virtual Red Shield benefit. We want to begin with a little bit of why we are doing this virtually for the first time.
Well, as we begin, I want to first thank Walton Insurance Group for producing this video and making this happen, making this a reality. And I want to thank American One Credit Union for their support in being the first sponsor of this video. We're planning in past to have raised $40,000 to $60,000 through this Red Shield benefit. We hope to be able to do that, and with your help, by the end of the video, we hope that you'll be able to make that a reality and maybe even go further than that. There's much need. We need your support. Please consider giving. The Salvation Army has been on the front lines of helping our neediest neighbors right here in Jackson since 1885. And like many, we are facing now the financial impact of COVID-19. And that's why we created this Good Neighbors video appeal.
Well, we're going to begin with a brief overview of the COVID-19, looking back on when it began here in Michigan to the present, followed by interviews from neighbors just like you and me. Where are we now?
Well, as you know, before COVID-19, Michigan residents were sending their kids to school, heading to class, going to the bars and the restaurants, attending church services and parties, and making St. Patrick's Day and March Madness plans. All these things were happening before COVID, as you well know.
So all that changed on the evening of March 10th, when the state announced its first 2 confirmed cases of COVID-19. After the first cases, the first big changes came as most schools announced plans to either suspend class or move classes online to an online format. Social distancing measures and community mitigation strategies began.
Followed by the closure of all Michigan K through 12 schools. Jeff, what was that like?
That was a very difficult and challenging time frame. For one, we did not have the typical public school did not have the platform to switch to totally online instruction. We also have a community here in Jackson County that we have some built-in challenges, whether kids have computers or the internet access. So it was a very much a challenging time, and then on top of that, the social distancing, or when we were in the lockdown phase, it was a tough time.
Then came the banning of all the gatherings of 200 or more, and announced restrictions on visiting residential and health care and juvenile centers, and closure of all the bars and the dine-in restaurants, the gyms, coffee houses, well, most public places for that matter. Unemployment expands to include those impacted by the closures. And next came bans on gatherings of 50 or more. That affected a lot of us. Michigan's big 3 automakers announced plans to shut down, and closures of hair salons and similar services began shutting down. And a statewide stay-at-home order for all non-essential workers took place.
Yeah, this was followed by the extension of the state's stay home, stay safe order. Testing began, and now we have begun a slow opening process, and I stress slow.
Now we're going to share some stories, some video of people in our community, businesses, others that have been affected by COVID, and get their side of the story.
I was sitting on the street, and this woman named Erica that works for the county does their mail, and every morning she would come and do the mail at the post office, and we would talk, and she was just so nice, and she put me in contact with Heather, the Salvation Army, and ever since then I got an apartment. This guy had an apartment that was empty. He let me move in right away and waited for his rent. And I had absolutely nothing. And through the Salvation Army, and I was able to get food and furniture and the things that I needed to, to live. And it made all the difference in the world. I mean, it's really hard to accept kindness like that, when it's, you don't expect it, you don't see it coming, you don't know how to react to it, But the Salvation Army has just been a godsend for me. I mean, I had a problem with my disability, and I got a couple months behind in the rent, and I had just moved in this place. But the landlord was, such a good guy. He knew that, I was a man of my word and that I would pay him. And the Salvation Army helped me pay that. He just called me last night, was just so thankful, that he got a check, for the back rent. And now I've got my disability problems straightened out, so I'm able to, to move forward. But it's just, the feeling I got was just so overwhelming, the thankfulness and the gratitude and the love that you feel when somebody does something nice for you for no other reason than they're doing something nice for you, and that just made all the difference in the world.
A lot of people come in with preconceived notions, or a lot of people come in feeling emasculated or sad or depressed or embarrassed. So we have to be that face, and we have to be that supportive. So that's why we do what we do, and that's why we are what we are. So a lot of it is faith. A lot of it is just communication. It's just talking to them and letting them know that they're in a trusted place, and everybody needs help sometimes, so there's no judgment, there's no embarrassment. So it's putting them in that safe place first, and then figuring out what they need and how we can help, and going that route. So safety and yeah. A lot of people, they come in my office and they go, well, I feel like this is a safe space, and that's what we want. That's what we want. So it's just confirming that they're okay, and this is natural, and this happens to people, and it may or may not be anybody's fault, but yeah, we're here to help. So.
Well, it was hard because I've worked my whole life. I've never had to ask for help, and to sit downtown with a sign, begging for help, and literally freezing and starving to death, and your only prayer is that God would just come and take you home, and it changes you, all of a sudden you're just so grateful, for a glass of water, for a place to go to the bathroom. When I got that apartment, I had nothing but the floor I laid on, and I remember not too long ago when I would have been complaining and whining about, I get this floor, and now it's like, oh my God, thank you, I have this floor, I have this, warmth, I can go to the bathroom, and there's all the things that I took for granted, so simple, that I just never realized until they were all withdrawn from me, and I guess the thing I take away from this is just immense gratitude. I just have so much love. I want to give back. It makes me just want to do something for someone else now that which I'm trying to do right now, but it puts you in a different frame of mind. It completely changed me. I mean, I've had money, I've had great jobs, and I've had a lot of possessions and things, and I'm happier now with absolutely nothing because of the lesson I learned of gratitude and thankfulness. I mean, I just was so selfish and self-centered and took everything for granted and never realized it, And it takes getting it taken away and you don't have it before you realize, wow, I really didn't have it that bad, And, that's what got me through on the street, was knowing that there's other people out there that are just like me, and, they have no hope, they're desperate, too proud to ask for help, too embarrassed. I mean, when I'm on the street, I had people call me drug addict and alcoholic. I had people spit at me, throw their drinks on me. There was some really nasty people. But I also learned there's some really good people in Jackson. I mean, there is a lot of very good people in Jackson, and I've learned that, So it was a good journey.
We do anywhere from financial education, we do budgets with people, credit scores, debt relief, helping college expenses. We have a lot of, and then besides that, we do energy education as well. So if someone wants how to lower their electric bill, how to insulate their home better. I can educate them on those kinds of things and connect them with programs that do those things. And then besides that, we do bill pay. You know, we help people with rent, home repairs, electric bills, water, security deposits, all of those kinds of things. And we also do a program called Pathway of Hope, where they come in every week, every month, as much as they can, and they're in a program for like a year just to get them, you know, if they're really, you know, like in Ken's case. So where they're kind of starting from nowhere. So every month we work on certain goals. So we have a whole year of goal setting, and so it's a whole program to get them back on their feet and get them childcare and get them government assistance if they can. We help people fill out paperwork for MDHHS or for Michigan Works. You know, people can come in and get those kinds of questions and education and things too.
When you get back, it's actually more for you than it is for the person. That's what I've learned, is the joy and the peace you feel. You could help somebody. Just you know, realizing, because like I said, I was praying every day that my Heavenly Father would just come and get me. I'm bone tired, I'm old, you know, I'm in bad health, you know, and I just have nothing here. I didn't feel like I had any purpose or anything. And then through all this help, you know, I realized that, you know, maybe I could help somebody else. Maybe I could get back. Maybe that's the reason I'm still here. And so that's kind of what I'm going with, you know, is that, you know, that's what God's purpose for me is to give back and to tell my story that other people are too scared or ashamed to say. I'm hoping anyway, you know, that if one person gets helped, then it was all worth it. You know? Because I know what that help meant to me when I got it. You know, it just, I mean, I can't tell you the joy and the thankfulness when you're cold and hungry and somebody brings you a hot cup of coffee, you know. I mean, just out of the blue, they don't even know you, you know, and they just bring you a hot cup of coffee because they saw you and they cared about you. And that, I can't describe the feeling that, you know, it's just a wonderful feeling, you know. And I would like other people to experience that. And I found that when I do things for others and give back, then I feel good about myself, so.
It's beautiful. It's a light, you know, a light that just shines from people, because you see, in this profession, you see people at their worst. You know, you do see people, you know, where their children are living on the street and no roof over their head and no food on the table. And so they come in and especially if they come in with kids, like we try to do something extra, you know, if they come in for food, we'll throw in a coloring book and some crayons or some cupcakes or cookies, you know what I mean? And those kids, like they you know, act like they've never seen a cupcake, or they can't even wait till they get home and they open up their food in the parking lot because they're so hungry. Like there's a feeling in that you know, you can't describe, and it's necessary. It's an absolute necessary job that we do, and it's absolutely necessary in this community. So, you know, there's no better reward.
There is some magic in giving, and one of the big things I've learned too is that the difference between wants and needs. There were so many things I thought that I needed that were just wants, and there's so many things I've learned that I can do without. And for some reason, obtaining materialistic things is just no longer important. That's not where it's at. I get my happiness from like, you know, God and prayer and, you know, helping other people and trying to do the best I can. And that seems to be where it's at for me. And that's a good lesson to learn, because I thought I needed so many different things. And, you know, I thought I needed a Cadillac when a Volkswagen would be just fine, you know. Thought I needed a steak when hamburger will do, you know. And these are things that I've learned, you know, and to be happy with that, you know, to actually not feel like I'm being cheated in some way, but I'm actually, you know, blessed that I have that. And I think of other people in other countries and, you know, how people have it so much worse. You know, I look at what we did to Jesus, and I'm like, why am I whining? You know, why am I complaining? You know, I mean, it just makes me feel so bad that, you know, I can whine and complain about the stupidest things, and I'm starting to realize through all this experience what's really important. You know, and I'm grateful for that lesson. I'm great. It took me 62 years to learn it, but I got it.
So the first thing is that when people encounter financial insecurity, and usually for the first time, it's very difficult for them to reach out for help. And so, being a credit union and having members, we're very proactive in reaching out to people. So, for instance, because we gave the payment deferral for 3 months, nobody was delinquent, which is usually the cue for us to make a phone call. So in this case, we reached out proactively to people regardless. So you're not delinquent. We're giving a courtesy call to see how you're doing, what's going on in your household. Is there anything we can do to help? How are you seeing the future? And so then our team has resources that they can then help that person with. So if we did have a call with a member who said, I don't have a job, I have not been able to get unemployment. So, we talked about unemployment earlier, that, the extra $600, but there's some people who are getting no unemployment. They're stuck in the system. There have been some unemployment scams that have slowed down the system. And so there are some people that really have had no income throughout this time. They lost their job and they've got no income. So we help people identify resources beyond what we can do to help them with their payment. And so one of those things would be, so Salvation Army, you need to know they have fresh food distribution. You need to know that, you can go and talk to them about your utility bill if that's building up. So people need someone to talk to. People need to know that they're not in it alone. And so as a community, for the Jackson community, the Salvation Army plays a very significant role. We all do, and we can't all do it alone. We have to do it together. And that's where the Salvation Army role is so critical.
So here in mid-Michigan, our economic need is pretty great. And the more you learn about the world around us, the more you realize that our need right here in Jackson is pretty great. And I think we knew that conceptually, but you start to continue to meet the families, you start to get to know the area, and you really feel that, and you really want to help solve it. Well, partnering with the Salvation Army, it helps your dollars go farther. They have resources that we don't. And so by not just trying to solve it ourselves, but by having a good partner, and it will make that contribution continue to stretch, go further, and be a part of the solution in a more long-term way. And that's exciting. We don't want to just put Band-Aids on the problem. Neither does anybody else. We want to continue to give a real leg up to our neighbors. And I think the Salvation Army helps to make that a possibility.
Well, I think that when the pandemic occurred and all the businesses were starting to close their doors and employees were facing all this uncertainty and unemployment rates were skyrocketing, the Salvation Army saw that need, that they could still continue to provide their services and really step up for our Jackson community. They continue to provide food pantry assistance and pastoral guidance, which I believe has been a godsend to our community members. They also were reaching out and providing hotel vouchers and hotel stays for the homeless in our Jackson community to give them a safe place where they felt that they were out of the line of a potential exposure during the pandemic. And they just really continued to do the most good, which is the guiding principle for the Salvation Army and reason why I've always been called to volunteer for them.
So when we think about, what the Salvation Army does for families in this situation, many of whom have never been in this situation in their life, we talk to members that say, I've never missed a payment in my life. I don't know where to go. I don't know what to do. I'm embarrassed. I'm depressed. This is a serious situation for a lot of families who are also in an unknown position. So what the Salvation Army, the programs that they have, starting with food. So we're already hearing about people who need help with groceries. And the Salvation is there right now. I know that they're doing the fresh food weekly distribution, and they're known for their food pantry. That's one of the main programs that they have. People are going to need that in the coming months. Utility bills. So maybe you were in a program that the utility company offered a deferral, or they're just simply saying we're not going to cut you off, but that's going to come to an end at some point. They can't do that forever. And so the Salvation Army will be able to help families, with other agencies, pay those utility bills so their power doesn't get shut off.
So the Salvation Army are neighbors of ours, and so it was a natural fit for us to partner with them. Sometimes I think when you think about charitable giving or you think about nonprofits, you really have to see and feel the problem to want to be involved. So as we walk into work, we can see the lines of people outside the door waiting at the holidays or at Thanksgiving. We can see the kids outside playing. We watch families walk from the bus stop to the Salvation Army, and it keeps you connected with the fact that there is great need right here in our backyard, that even if things are going well with you, you have to think beyond. You have to see your partners, your neighbors. So American One Credit Union can help on the banking side, and often does. Their guests are often our members, that we often share the same people, and we're proud of that. So we can help on the banking side, but what can we do to help solve the rest of the need? We're a part of the story, so how can we have the story have a happy ending for both them in the banking space, but also in the rest of the need?
You'll see an immediate return on your donation to the Salvation Army with the programs that they help provide, the utility assistance that they provide to members of our community. So many people face shutoff notices 12 months out of the year. And the Salvation Army is an organization that people go to in those times of need. They want to keep the heat on or the water on for their children. They want to keep food on their table, and sometimes our food pantries aren't running like they are at this time. So you see an immediate return on your donation to the Salvation Army.
The Salvation Army obviously is working with people that have needs, and sometimes those needs are financial, or they need to figure out a budget, or they need to know more about how to negotiate whatever financial situation they're in. So because we are, the proximity is so close, and we are a financial institution, and we do happen to have over 20 certified financial counselors on our team. So it's a nice synchronicity that, they can refer people over here a few steps away. We can sit down with them and identify some areas that might benefit their financial situation.
We're living in a different world right now. Lots of different needs, lots of problems that have been created, and even a lot of things that are going on out there that we're just not sure about. So there's a lot of insecurity at this time. And we're building a community, and we have a community. We've got so many different facets of it, and thank God we have people like the Salvation Army. I mean, I think we all know the name of the Salvation Army, and we think of people that out ringing the bell and at Christmas time, and we really don't know what they do. But again, are they a big part of what this community is all about? They are. They really are. And it's everything, from whether it's helping a child that's hungry, or helping a child that needs counseling, or an adult for that matter, whether it has something to do with shelter, whether it has something to do with an adult that can't pay a bill for a utility bill or whatever. I don't think that people understand everything that the Salvation Army does and how important to our community they are, and that most anybody could, at one time in their life, need the services of the Salvation Army. I don't think that you can sit out there and say, well, I don't need the Salvation Army. I think a lot of people have said that, and next thing you know, they need it. So they're a great faith-based organization that I think really, they not only live it and they preach it, and they out there serving people. I mean, that's what they're all about, through being Christians to serve others that are in need.
It's amazing what the Salvation Army does here in Jackson. A lot of what the Army does is really behind the scenes, and one of the neat things about what the Salvation Army does is it serves so many people. we often are asked to help. There's so many organizations and agencies that ask for help, and certainly so many do so much work, but the Salvation Army really reaches across so many different areas in helping people, families, people with children, people with food needs, people with transportation, people with job loss. There are so many different areas of impact that the Salvation Army has here in Jackson. So for us as a business, when we were looking for ways to help people in the community, particularly people that might even be our own employees, know that the Salvation Army is a great steward of the resources that they are given, that they are entrusted with, and we know that all the dollars that we are helping the Salvation Army raise, all the money that is donated to the Salvation Army here in Jackson, it really does stay right here, and we can see that it is helping community, it is helping neighbors, it is helping individuals.
And I think about what they're doing in our community, though, and I think about how many people they've really helped and how many stories have not been told about the people that they've changed their lives or saved them, for that matter. And I think it's so important for us to understand that and to support somebody like this so they can give back in the way they do to those of us that need them at different times in our life. So the Salvation Army, thank God for them. We're glad they're here. We think the future without them would be uncertain future for sure. And I think they got so much to offer. And if you take the time to understand what they do, I think you'll be very impressed to hear all the different things they do and the people that work there and the volunteers they have and even the facility they have and what they offer down there, whether you go in there and see this food pantry or you see this children program that they have out there. So it's a thriving organization, progressive organization, changing with the world, but a huge part of our community. And again, thank God for the Salvation Army.
I think every employer will have employees that will come to them and say, I need some help. We've had this emergency, and I'm wondering if we could maybe get an advance on our pay, or if there's any programs or any support that you might be able to offer. We know that the Salvation Army is the best resource for people that are struggling, and a lot of times people will not be upfront about what is holding them back, why they might not be able to get to work. Maybe they don't have transportation, maybe their car died, maybe they're having a problem with a babysitter or childcare, or just having basic needs met, things like utility bills, water shut off, food. All of those things can keep someone from not only being productive at their job, but maybe not even being able to get to their job. And we know that the Salvation Army has a lot of impact in helping people become sufficient in order to get to their job and to function with their job. I think a lot of people that are having issues with money or with childcare or food, they are maybe not keeping their eye on the ball at work, and they're preoccupied, they're worried. And really, when you're having money problems or any of those issues that are impacting your family, that's going to be your number one priority. And you're going to want to look out for your family and just for survival, first and foremost. So employees, people in a company and a small business in Jackson that are having struggles, it's great to know that there's a resource like the Salvation Army that is able to help these people with those kinds of problems so that they can function.
I think also one of the things that we all have to understand is when economics hits us and we don't have the money to do certain things and you're looking to just survive out there. And so if you can't provide for your children, if you can't provide the basics beyond some basic food, and change the whole environment that you live in. And this is so important to anybody to ever want to get out of the problem they have. They have to have the security of knowing I have some kind of financial ability to do this so I can support my family and give them the emotional support I need to and give them hope out there. And people without hope probably haven't got a chance to get out. And I think this is important where the Salvation Army tries to help that even from the economic standpoint so that we can stabilize people, so that they can stabilize people and help these people take that next step to bring them out of that and to live this life that we all strive for.
I get asked to help a lot of organizations, and even from time to time I'm stopped on the street, people will ask for help, and I think everybody's encountered that. Somebody needs $5 or, $10, and, we want to help people, that way. But I think all of those people that are struggling, and those are the people that are asking for the help, that are, reduced to standing on a street corner asking for money. Those are the people Salvation Army helps. And I look at it as a way to help the most people with the most resources. Salvation Army, I've looked into a lot of organizations, and how they do fundraising, how much money of what they raise actually goes toward the cause, what kind of overhead and expenses that they have. Salvation Army, all the money that's raised, it goes right into the community. It stays right in Jackson. And these are people that the volunteers and the staff of the Salvation Army, they know that they live this every day. They're part of the community. They're actually located in an area of low income where they are seeing, daily the kinds of struggles people are having. When we are able to help the Salvation Army, particularly in a time like now with the various crises that we're experiencing, not just in our community, but everywhere, we know that the people that are struggling the most here in Jackson are getting the most help through the Salvation Army.
The Salvation Army plays a really important role in a person being healthy. So when you think about being healthy, it's not just about physical health, but it's also about mental health. It's about the resources that are available to you, the opportunities that you have. And so Salvation Army plays an intricate role in keeping that person healthy. And as a result, it's important to have partners when it comes to that work, right? Because just one organization can't provide everything, but as we work together as a whole, as a community, then we're making sure that a person is physically healthy, mentally healthy. They have the food that they need. They have the environment that they need. They have the living conditions that they need. So it's really amazing the work that Salvation Army does when it comes to really keeping a person healthy.
We think it is significantly important to have partnerships at this given time. Informal partners, formal partners are all well and good. Salvation Army is a good example of both a formal and informal partner in which we rely on them to refer folks over to here and vice versa. We also work with local hospital, our Allegiance Health, our Henry Ford Allegiance Health, and we work with other providers here in the communities as well as other organizations like the YMCA as well. We think those partnerships are significant because we as one entity, one health entity, can't do everything alone. So for example, while we provide some food, it is extremely important that we connect folks up to other food places here in the community, like the Salvation Army, like food pantries, in which folks can get their daily diet so that they are not increasing or inflaming those health issues that they already have.
So one of the things that Salvation Army does very well is really partnering with other organizations in the community, right? Because just one organization can't do it all, but those partnerships are crucial to really serving folks and making sure that their needs are met. So knowing that a person can come to Salvation Army, somewhere they trust, somewhere that is going to give them access to the needs that they have. But Salvation Army doesn't do everything, but what's great is they do partner with other local organizations. So as we create those partnerships and build those partnerships, we can ensure that a person is fully taken care of, no matter what needs they have, because we're all working together.
So when a member of our community is able to come full circle and receive all the services they need, it's a joy. It's a joy to us because that means that individual is able to get their life back on track. They're able to be involved in the community. They're able to serve. They're able to go to work, go back to work. They're able to engage in their family and here in the community. So we look at this as a whole will of just helping each other get back to that healthy part of living in our community so that we can contribute, both in terms of our family, but also in terms of the community.
I love the mission and the value system that Salvation Army believes in. It doesn't matter who you are or where you've come from or what population you're a part of. Salvation Army is there to help you. And that's just what our community needs. Some place that's not going to be focused on what you look like or what you do and don't have. But if you need help, Salvation Army is there to help you. And helping people is something I'm passionate about. So this organization fits well with me and my mission.
So I'm an optimist. I'd like to think that at some point we're going to get past this pandemic. We know that there are other issues that are going to plague us. We know, for example, flu season is coming. And we as a community, generally speaking, have low numbers when it comes to getting kids vaccinated or getting flu shots. Those are all important things that we know if we can lean on our partners, like the Salvation Army, like Henry Ford, like the food pantries, like the school system, as partners, that we can increase those numbers and thereby having a real impact on keeping our community safe and healthy. Without those preventive measures, we will be right back in the same boat that we're in, whether it's this pandemic or another. So it's extremely important to have those partnerships.
In the days before COVID-19, the Salvation Army of Jackson County last fiscal year provided an average of 22,688 individuals with basic needs assistance. How times have changed. In March, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the unemployment rate was at 3.4%. In May, the unemployment rate has risen to 20%. As the economic fallout from the pandemic becomes more evident, these requests will skyrocket. Please keep in mind, these numbers each represents one of our neighbors right here.
Right. Consider the working mother whose hours were cut when the hotel rooms were canceled along with those out-of-town meetings. Consider the father whose second job depends on tips for his great service, but almost no one is coming in right now. The elderly woman who felt isolated before, she must now really feel it. Think of a family accustomed to working hard and proud that they have always pulled together their own weight, suddenly finding themselves at the end of their own resources because of a job loss caused by COVID-19. But we shouldn't need help, they might say. People who never thought that they would need the Salvation Army are finding hope behind that red shield. The Salvation Army service is rooted in love thy neighbor. And because of neighbors like you, the Salvation Army will keep our heart and doors open for neighbors in need. And while we continue to respond to those requests, the Salvation Army of Jackson County is also embracing a tsunami of need, particularly as it relates to financial emergency.
So, Major, in order to maximize our response, we're convening a strategic planning group to help us better leverage technology and funding to collect and address the short and long-term needs of our neighbors living right here in Jackson County. All of this will require ongoing investment from partners, supporters, donors, and friends just like you. Please consider investing in the Salvation Army and the ongoing relief efforts by donating. Please give. You can give by mail. The Salvation Army of Jackson County, 806 East Pearl Street, Jackson, Michigan, 49201. Or you can give by phone at 517-782-7185.
As we emerge from the devastating COVID-19 pandemic, the Salvation Army will continue to serve on the front lines, committed to helping those in need as we've done since 1885 when we were first established here in Jackson. Individuals and families need help with rent and mortgage payments and utilities, food, shelter, and other basic necessities as that need keeps growing. And the challenge before us is unlike any that we've ever encountered before in our lifetime. It will take all of us, working together to overcome it.
Next, you're going to see some video clips of what it means of being a good neighbor right here in Jackson County.
Well, today you've heard a lot of stories. All of them were made true by the generosity of donors like you. It's true that we are one of the most efficient nonprofits, and donors do look to us to be able to deliver on their desire to help others. The efficiency that we're able to deliver allows for 83 cents on the dollar to go to programming. Again, this is only made possible by the army of all of our donors, and we view you as all members of the Salvation Army.
So we've all seen the impact of what COVID-19, what a pandemic, an emergency could do to the lives of people. And we have people that are living in that emergency situation, that emergency need every day. And really, it's so important that in this space, we do give, we do support these missions, we do reach out and provide resources so that this work can continue. It is important. It's important that everyone is taken care of, that everyone needs are met, and Salvation Army is doing that work. And so I envision our community flourishing, and I envision our community being prosperous. And Salvation Army is making that happen for everyone. And that's why it's so important that we give, and we give now.
The money that people donate to Salvation Army goes to use immediately. People that are not able to feed their family tonight, they can get help today. And the money that people donate to the Salvation Army, the check that you write this morning, it's actually going to be used this afternoon. And when you're hungry, or you don't have gas, or you don't have childcare, or any one of the number of needs that people have, particularly in a time of crisis, you can't wait. You need help today. And a lot of programs, particularly government programs, there's application processes, there's approvals, there's red tape, there's waiting and competition, and there's just a lot of hoops that people have to jump through in order to get help. And when people are really in need, and people really need help, the last thing that they want to have to do is stand in line and go through a lot of red tape and fill out a lot of forms and even ask. Just having to ask for help is really hard. And I think the Salvation Army has made it so easy for people. So if they do have problems, they've got the open door. They're always there. And that's one thing that I'm very confident in, that the money that we're able to help the Salvation Army with goes to use immediately. So the time is now. And yes, there's a lot of understanding about Salvation Army's Red Kettle at Christmas time. Well, yeah, it's great to help the Salvation Army at Christmas time, but the needs are year-round, and particularly in the summer. I've seen so many different things that the Salvation Army is able to do during the summer months. It's a year-round mission. It's a 24/7 mission. So money raised goes to use immediately. So you have confidence in knowing that every dollar that you donate and the donation that you make goes to use immediately.
I think everyone should donate to the Salvation Army. I truly believe that the Salvation Army is doing God's work. I truly believe that the Salvation Army is doing love's work. I just, I've worked at several nonprofits, and I couldn't be happier where I'm at now and the work that I do and the work that the organization does. So to me, what they do is absolutely priceless, and it cannot happen without gifts.
But being a volunteer-based, donation-based organization, the last thing that people are thinking to do in times of need is to give. I think that people are more, I need to make sure that I'm taking care of me. And really, helping take care of your neighbors is taking care of you. Luke 6:35 says, do good and lend, and it will come back to you, and ask nothing in return. And that's what the Salvation Army believes. They want to do good and they want to lend, and they don't ever expect anything in return. And so for the community to be able to rally together to continue to help provide those services is just so critically important, especially during a pandemic.
I personally feel it's incredibly essential to the community. The community would not be the same without it. There would be a lot of suffering people and no place to go for help. The Salvation Army is one of the only places you can go for that kind of help. And if it wasn't here, I don't know what people would do, because so many people rely on it. I mean, there's so many people that rely on the food bank and assistance. There's just so many different things that they provide. And without them, I don't know what people would do. Well, probably turn to crime, like people are doing, because people are going to feed their kids one way or another, And, I don't know, I just think the Salvation Army is a very vital stopgap, and it needs to be recognized.
So with the Salvation Army in particular, they do such an excellent job of serving the community and serving the underserved. But for American One, it's not just the fact that they get the job done, but it's how they get the job done. So they serve their guests with dignity and respect. And that really resonates with us because we have taught that to our team for decades. It is so important to us to serve our community, whether you're in want or not, with dignity and respect every time you come in the door. We don't care the number in your checking account. You are going to get the same level of excellent service regardless. And the Salvation Army's passion is that same way. They're driven to know that people are people and they deserve dignity and respect every time. So that really makes that a really natural partnership for us. Then, knowing that our philosophies are so similar, we can really see ourselves as part of the solution, as part of the story. So we see the families in need. We know that they're serving in the way that aligns with who we want to be. Then why not get involved? Who would we be if we sat on the sidelines and watched our community with such need and not do anything about it? You have to serve with integrity. You have to serve your members with integrity. You have to serve each other with integrity. You have to show your team of employees that you're serving your community with dollars in action, in play. You have to be a part of the solution, especially now. Who would we be if we didn't take action today, this year, right now? So to see yourself as part of the story, you want to weave yourself in. And that's a choice that we get to make. This is the invitation to get yourself into the story, to walk every day going, all right, I see the problem. I know there's a real action step that I can take, and I'm going to do that right now, today.
So our donors play a huge role when it comes to having a successful community. When we think about all the resources that the Salvation does provide, providing food, helping with shelter, helping with bills, helping with clothes, all of these resources, the reality is that those things cost money. So when we think about making a positive impact, when we think about changing the culture and really creating the community that we want to live in, our donors are key in that process. We need you to create the Jackson that we all want to exist in. We need you to help folks that just need help. And so your part in this process is crucial, that we really, again, create the environment that we want to live in.
A good neighbor to me is anyone who would go out of their way to help someone less fortunate. I mean, look at it in just terms of your actual neighbors. You know, if you notice that their lawn is not mowed and you're out there with your mower, like, why wouldn't you just do that? So it's all about helping people when you can, whether it be financially, emotionally, with food, with necessities, and we can always use, even if people don't want to donate money, we can always use toiletries and household stuff that people just can't afford. You know, you automatically kind of budget money for food, but you don't laundry detergent and paper towels, and those things add up. So those kinds of things people don't budget, so they don't use, you know. So to me, it's just giving back.
When things are so uncertain, it's really hard to go and ask for businesses for help. And I believe that seeing the Salvation Army on their social media outlets and just word of mouth through the community and hearing the services that they were still continuing to provide when a lot of places where we don't know if we're going to be able to continue these things really helped businesses who were still able to financially provide assistance to the Salvation Army continue to want to give. And to see the impact that was having on the members of our community is what helped American One decide that when we're going to do our virtual car sale that we held a couple months ago, that we wanted to donate a certain amount of money per every vehicle sold to the Salvation Army because of what they were doing for our community members.
Salvation Army has always been a good neighbor to Jackson. In fact, the Salvation Army in Jackson is one of the oldest organizations helping this community before there were cars. When horses transported people in Jackson, the Salvation Army was here, and they stood by the community. They served as the ultimate good neighbor for Jackson through good times and through bad times. They've always been a great neighbor, and I love being a good neighbor to the Salvation Army.
I don't know, I just know I have so many people that the Salvation Army has paid their electric bill and kept it from being shut off, paid their rent and kept them from being evicted, brought them over food, helped their children out with clothing, you know, just all kinds of things, you know. And I think people need to realize that the Salvation Army is not just focused on one thing, that they are a multitask, you know, organization. They're helping a lot of people in a lot of different areas. They're meeting a lot of different needs that other agencies don't need. There's needs out there that a food bank can't help, especially when you got a lot of food banks, you know. You know, where do you go when you're being evicted? Where do you go when you're getting behind in your electric, you know? I mean, just so many different things, you know. And I think their caseworkers at Salvation Army are very understanding, you know, of people's needs. They're not so high above people that they, you know, they don't treat people like, yeah, what do you want now? You know, they're more like, welcome to me. And you just feel love and friendliness and welcomeness when you go there and when you talk to anybody, even on the phone, you know, and that draws you to them, yeah. So.
So for me, being a good neighbor is taking your empathy into action. So I can walk down the street, I can see a problem and just keep walking. Or I can make eye contact with the person, really be present, and then start to feel like maybe I should take some action. So being a good neighbor is taking empathy into action. You can be empathetic all day long, but if you're not involved, if you're not doing something to be part of the solution, whether that's a little bit or a lot, whether it's time or whether it's money, all of those pieces are impactful. And we all know that everything you give has a ripple effect and it will help. But you have to take action. So being a good neighbor is moving from empathy to action, taking that step, deciding to get involved. Who cares if you don't know the person? If you've never met the person coordinating that event that day, get involved. I'm sure they're nice people. You know, what do we get afraid of? We get afraid of the unknown, but it's time to step out. It's time to be involved with the community. It's time to get to know some new friends and to be a good neighbor.
I really think if more people could hear about the personal side of what we do, you know, if they heard the stories that I heard and they saw the people that I saw, I mean, it would be a no-brainer. There would be no hesitation. I mean, I've had to leave my office in tears before and just pace up and down the hall because it's so emotional seeing these, you know, these needy people at their worst just begging for help. I mean, it's heart-wrenching, and this is the community we live in. So I don't know how you wouldn't want to help that.
Well, I want to say thank you to all of the folks who have already made financial contributions to us and those that have made contributions of time, talent, and treasure. Again, you are part of an army of individuals that helps to transform lives. And in a dark time, people do look to us. And the ability for us to be able to be there, we've been here for 135 years in Jackson County. We're one of the oldest nonprofits in Jackson County. We'll continue to be here serving our neighbors. And I urge you to consider helping us do so.
Major, when you look into the future, what do you see? In 5, 10, 20 years, when all the changes COVID-19 has made now, when all the Army's vision is laid, what do you see?
Well, I see a Salvation Army that is a vibrant and diverse community, where the focus is on the person, not the issues, not the struggles, not the definitions, and not the labels. I see a holistic community that cares for the complete person, mind, body, and spirit.
Well, Major, as an advisory board member and all of our advisory board members, we are committed to serving throughout all of Jackson County. Because wherever you see the red shield, we want our neighbors in Jackson County to know that they will find people caring for one another, working together, and meeting the needs in daily and practical, down-to-earth ways.
I also see an Army that's always willing to seek a better way, that is always willing to try something new, that's not afraid to change, that has the courage to ask the questions that need to be asked, to challenge the status quo, and to hold our people accountable. I see an Army that is pioneering, radical, action-oriented, self-sacrificing, and collaborates with others, sharing skills and resources as part of the comprehensive mission. I see an Army of salvation, an Army that is transformational, with Christ at our center, committed to the Great Commission of God. We're focused, and we will never give up our mission to preach the gospel of Jesus Christ, to meet human needs in His name without discrimination.
We believe we will see Jackson County transform one life at a time. In the next few months, we are committed to make our vision a reality.
Journey of 5 to 10 to 20 years, well, that starts right now. Will you join me in our vision of the Salvation Army? Will you be a good neighbor? We thank you for your cooperation and your support.
Well, we would like to thank Walton's Insurance Group and American One Credit Union for their financial support for this virtual Red Shield benefit. But I also want to thank Major Joe and his passion in leading our Jackson Salvation Army. His heart is pure, his heart is in the right place. And what I would like to couple with Major Joe and to please ask for your support. We need your support more than ever. I know these are tough times. I understand that many people are struggling, businesses, individuals, but those that can reach out and be a part of helping our community right here in Jackson, we would just greatly appreciate that. So on behalf of Major Joe and myself, we would just like to thank you, and also the advisory board.
Right.
We just, without us working together with Major Joe and the staff right here at the Salvation Army, this all would not be possible. Thank you, and please consider it in your heart to give to the Salvation Army.